What's up, everybody? Welcome to podcast now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about what Sucker Punch does next. Now, look, Ghost of Yotei just came out, and I don't want any allegations that, you can only think about the future, Alex. You can't focus on the present. I'm loving Ghost of Yotei. I'm honestly loving it more than I thought. And over the next several days, and even maybe multiple weeks, we'll be having plenty of videos on Ghost of Yotei. So do not worry about that. I'll be covering Ghost of Yotei a ton. But there was an interview done yesterday that kind of gave an interesting line. Actually brought up Sly Cooper, which got my ears kind of peaked on that one. But this is something I do like to do for a lot of these games. I did it for Silent Hill, right? Like, what's the future after X game comes out? And so for Sucker Punch, Ghost of Yotei comes out. What do they do next? So what I want to do just really quickly is kind of rapid fire what I feel like are possible things, that they could actually go down. Then I want to read some of those lines from the interviews. I mean, to boil those down, though, really fast, it's really, it's going to be one game, one single game. It's not a studio that's going to do 2, 3, 4 things, okay? If they do another Ghost game, it would be a different time period and a different protagonist, okay? So it wouldn't be Jin, it wouldn't be Atsu, it wouldn't be Tsushima or Yotei. Well, what could they do? Well, I said one of it. Look, to me, the most likely option is one more Ghost game. Now, I don't know if that's actually what I would prefer. I try not to make like my Sly biasness like my entire personality, okay? If it was up to me, they would go to Sly Cooper. I don't care if there's another studio already making a Sly Cooper game. You can make 2 Sly Cooper games at the same time. That would be me, okay? I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to deceive you. My biasness would be, if you have a choice, do a Sly Cooper game. We know 10% of the studio would like that. We've talked about those kind of comments before, right? And, they've talked about, like, if they're going to do a game, they're giving it their all. I would love them to go back to Sly. Okay, so Sly is one that I personally would want. But, you look at their history and you see Sly, and technically there was stuff before Sly, but really I'm going to say Sucker Punch kind of started with Sly Cooper. Sly, Infamous, Ghost. So Sly made it to 3, right, from them, and then they stopped. Infamous, they did 1 and 2, same protagonist in Cole, and then obviously you switch to Delsin for Second Son. I guess you therefore make a trilogy, but you don't label the third game 3, and you ended that there. Now you do Ghost of Tsushima, Ghost of Yotei. I feel like it's kind of a rule of 3s. I feel like the thing is, I guess it would be, like, if I'm trying to read their minds, right? It would kind of be, do you think they've told everything there is to tell in these Ghost games? Ultimately, maybe a different way of saying it or thinking about it, is Yotei kind of like the peak of these type of games? Now, I haven't played too much of Yotei, but again, I'm absolutely freaking loving it. To me, I don't know if you can get better, okay, than what they've really done, not just with Yotei, because I freaking love Tsushima. I thought that game was an excellent game. Like, are you done? And I mean, I think from a creative, like when you're making these products, but you're making art, and I think from their perspective, I wonder if they're thinking, like, can we push this anymore? Or is it time we move on like, is our story told? Clearly, Jin's story was told, and although I actually do not know the fate of Atsu at this point in Yotei, and I don't want to hear it in the comments, obviously they're done with that story as well. And so that's kind of like a smaller version, right? Like, they feel, okay, Jin's story is told. And in the article that I keep talking about or referencing, they talked about the actor who played Jin and how sad they were for him because they love that guy, and he was actually harder to say goodbye to than Jin as a character. So, I think it takes a lot of guts from them to say, we feel at peace and we're done. And so they've already done that twice. Would you need to do it a third time for another Ghost game? I guess that, to me, that is the really big question, because that would kind of ripple affect, everything else. Because, one idea I've had, and I thought about this like a week or 2 before Yotei came out, I wouldn't be shocked if they just made a new IP. Okay, so there's like a biasness of me to do, a Sly Cooper, all right? The kind of easy, maybe most predictable answer would be a third Ghost game, and then that's kind of it. I feel like the riskier one, but one that kind of feels right, is go for the fourth. I don't even know what you call that, but think about like winning championships and you've done it 3 times in a row. And I do mean this, and I think I said this to a friend of mine a little while ago. Like, they made Sly Cooper, okay? My favorite game franchise of all time. They made Infamous, and Infamous is so freaking good. I think it would work nowadays, by the way, so they need to bring it back. But they did Infamous. They did Ghost of Tsushima, and then now Yote. They've really had a three-peat there of incredible franchises that they've started from scratch. And really, when you think about the other PlayStation studios, only Naughty Dog can rival that number, right? Crash, Jack, Uncharted, Last of Us, right? And they're kind of going for 5 with Intergalactic, but they did it 4 times, and that took a long time, right? About the same time, actually, as Sucker Punch a little bit. They were around a little bit longer, but not to make it like a sport of like, okay, well, which studio is better? But like, you think about them, you can think about Insomniac, I guess, with like Resistance, Ratchet, Spider-Man, maybe Sunset Overdrive. But you think about maybe Santa Monica or like Media Molecule, like they really only have Little Big Planet, right, in terms of like the success of these studios. So I guess what I'm saying is, and I do think this goes somewhere, Sucker Punch has consistently shown they're capable of starting amazing IPs. You know what I mean? And they've done it 3 times, and the only one that could beat it, I would say, is Naughty Dog. And like, they could go for and I guess that's really where my argument, like my foundation lies, right? Is they've proven they're able to do it, and they've created more franchises that at least speak to me, more numbered, in terms of how many, than everybody except for Naughty Dog. And Naughty Dog had more years really to start Crash and into now. So I feel like Sucker Punch is right there. And I guess that ties back in, right? If they feel they're done with Ghost, and this is where it gets tricky. Do they go to Sly? Okay, well, of course, I'd love them to go to Sly, but could I see Sucker Punch going from Infamous Second Son, Ghost of Tsushima, Ghost of Yote, Sly Cooper? I think that would be, by the way, a pretty good run, okay? But could you, do people, take note of that, right? Like, is that something that's kind of normal for them to do? It almost feels off, even though it'd be so right, by me. Again, that's that biasness. Okay, then you have Infamous, right? Could they go back to Infamous? Again, I think Infamous has a place in modern day. I saw some people say, maybe they don't do it because there's almost pressure internally or externally because of Insomniac doing Spider-Man, doing Wolverine. Maybe they don't want the competition of different superheroes. Maybe Sony doesn't want it. Maybe they get the feel from, the fandom that they can't have it. I saw that online a couple days ago, and I thought, maybe that's something, honestly, that's in their head where they say, yeah, Infamous would work, but we don't want to step on Insomniac because then we're kind of maybe fighting each other. I don't know. I would like to believe that's not happening, but it absolutely could happen. And like I said, I think a third Ghost game is kind of a safe answer. Not that it's wrong. By the way, safe does not mean, oh, that's a stupid answer. No. It could be the smartest answer of the entire group. It really, I think, again, boils down to, did they do everything they wanted to do in these last 2 Ghost games? And by the way, the one thing I'll throw out, a little sly hope, in that article that I've referenced 5 times without showing it, in that article there was the line of, whether we do another Ghost or go back to do Sly, and it connects the idea of, we're a 1-team studio. We can only make a game every 5 years. We're a small team. We got to give it our all, and we have to feel oh so right, when we pick a game. And that line, again, to the Sly hope, it's interesting he brought up Sly. My pessimistic mentality for that, though, would be, I feel like he's just going to the extremes, right? He's saying, okay, we've done the Ghost games, so if we do another one, or we go back, and now what could we go? You could argue, well, he brought up Sly. He didn't bring up Infamous, right? He specifically said, or we go back and make Sly. And I do like that he brings up Sly, but is he saying it because that's one that's in their head right now? Or is he bringing it up because that's the first franchise people think of when they, or the oldest one that they think of when they think of Sucker Punch, and it's older than Infamous? Kind of 2 ways you could look at that line, right? And I don't know. For me, I don't think that moves the needle very much on Sly. But I just wanted to bring it up, because I have seen so many people talk about it. I would love it to mean something, but again, I just feel maybe he's just talking about it as an extreme. He's saying, okay, well, we could go back and do a game that's Sly 3, 20 years old, right, as of a couple days ago. We can go back and do Sly, or we can just keep kind of moving forward with what we're doing. either way, here's our principles, right? And he's talking about the extremes to stress, here's how we do things. He might not have brought up Sly because that's some like secret idea, they're throwing around the office. I would like it to be, but I don't think so. So that, I know I haven't really settled on an answer. I guess this is kind of where the end of the video comes in. Again, my biasness would be Sly Cooper. Okay, the hope would be Sly. The safe answer, which again is not a bad answer, it might be the smartest one, would be a third Ghost game and assume that they have kind of one more idea that they can kind of get that energy out on, right? And then they can be done, right? So that's kind of that safe but smart answer. And then maybe the unsafe answer, but one that I do think actually makes a lot of sense, is just abandoning all of them, right? And trying again. It's again not to compete and say, well, Naughty Dog's done 4, so we need to do 4 franchises. It's simply they have a history and they know how to create new franchises. And again, like maybe they've told their stories. They seemingly have told their stories with Sly. They've definitely, it feels like, told their stories with Infamous, and they might be done with Ghost. If there's nowhere to go with those 3 games, then maybe you just do a 4th one, right? A 4th franchise. And by the way, in that article, they were talking about like the dream would be, or like a best case scenario, like if the team was bigger, right? They could do 4 games. They could do a fan favorite. And I think they said that too. They were like, well, we could do a game we want. We could do a remaster of a game. We could do a fan favorite, kind of please everyone. The reality is they don't have a lot of people, and they purposely want to keep it that way because that's just what's always worked for them. That's kind of in their DNA, is to stay relatively small for the kind of quality games they put out. And, I've seen people get mad at that. I can get getting mad at it, but I honestly respect it. I really do, because I think it takes, again, a kind of a lot of guts to say that, to say, hey, we could scale up, but where we're at is where we're at, and we've always been like this, and we feel good, and again, like that kind of idea of we can only do 1 game, and it takes 5 years, and we got to throw everything we got at it, so we got to pick the best one, and that's how kind of their mentality is. I think that deserves a lot of respect, because honestly, so far it's worked. Even though, I would prefer certain things to happen, I'm also very happy with what we've gotten from them, so wherever they go, I honestly will always support them. They mean the word. Nate Fox, as people have talked about, I've talked about, I think is one of the better game directors in the industry, one of the most underappreciated game directors easily, but the guy's a living legend. He doesn't get talked about nearly enough, to be honest with you. So wherever they go, I'll be there, and we'll see what they do. But those would kind of be my 3 answers depending on the situation. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.